Hey guys, welcome to our lesson 4 on our online learning module for biomechanics. Today we're going to be looking at projectile motion. By the end of the lesson, you should be able to tell me what a projectile motion is, including what a projectile is. You should also be able to tell me what forces act on a projectile once in the air, and finally tell me the 3 main principles that are linked to projectile motion. So let's get started, let's have a look. Alright, firstly, what is a projectile? Projectile is any object or body that travels through the air. So think of any sports that you play, and also think about what equipment travels through the air for that particular sport. If we look at athletics, things like discuses, shot puts, javelins are examples of a projectile. So looking at the picture in front of us, a biker has become a projectile. Okay, as because he is travelling through the air from one side to the other side. Okay, so this is seen as the biker, and the bike is a projectile. Okay, another main principle in regards to projectile is what their flight path is called. So obviously, as an object travels from one place to another, no matter how far it is going, it follows a flight path. Alright, and these flight paths is called a trajectory or a parabola. Okay, and that is known as our flight path. Obviously, there will be some forces acting upon our biker as he travels through the air, and we talked about a little bit about this in Newton's laws. Okay, so the forces here acting on the biker are gravity, so pulling the biker down towards Earth, and also air resistance, which is slowing our biker up. Alright, so let's have a look about what this looks like. So as you can see, the biker is travelling in this direction. Okay, this direction, towards the end of, all the way up, all the way to the other end of the jump. As he is jumping, we have a downward force that is pulling him down, which is gravity. Okay, so we've got gravity pulling him down, and we also have air resistance playing a role, which is slowing him up and causing him to slow down. So this is air resistance. So those are some of the things that are acting on him to pull him down or slow him down. All our projectiles will always have gravity acting on them, pulling them down to Earth, and also air resistance, which is also acted upon by a projectile. Alright, let's have a look at the 3 main principles. There are 3 main principles linked to projectile motion, and it's all to do with the release of the projectile, which in turn affects how the projectile flies. So let's talk about the 3 main principles. The first one we're going to look at is angle. Okay, and it's called angle of release. Sorry guys, pen there. Okay. Angle. Okay, so angle is going to play a major part on how far the projectile flies. So if we have a look at the picture above us of the person throwing a projectile, you can see he's using a long angle as opposed to a sharp angle, for example if it was going up, or a low angle where the object would go down. Okay, so the optimum angle for projectile motion is at 45 degrees. Is the optimum angle. Right, so example here, if I was to draw a graph. Alright, so if I was to throw a ball, and I throw the angle quite high, if if I release the object at a really high angle, it gets to its top point here, and it will follow that same curve straight back down. Okay, so the higher we release the particular object, the least distance it will go. So as you can see here, the distance here. Alright, if we were to throw a ball at a low angle, okay, it also has less distance to travel. Alright, if I was to find an angle in the middle where it gets to the top of its curve and it will come down following the same path, so it's equal on both sides. Okay, so if I was to throw the ball up like that. Okay, as you can see, the angle is equal on this side compared to the other side. So as you can see there, if I've got a middle ground, so my angle here is roughly about 45 degrees, so it will have longer to travel before it lands on the ground. Okay, so that's angle of release. Alright, our second principle is speed. Okay, speed of release is our second main principle of projectile motion. If we don't put much force onto the projectile isn't going to go that far. However, if we apply a greater force on our projectile, it's going to go a greater distance. So what I mean by that, if I was to draw a graph again, if I was throwing the ball at about 10 meters per second, and also threw the ball at 20 meters per second, so if I put more force onto the particular object, it's going to travel further. Okay, it's got greater distance. So if I was to throw it at 10 meters per second, it will eventually drop. If I throw it at a faster speed, it's going to travel further before it lands on the ground. Alright, and our lucky last principle of projectile motion is height of release. Okay, height of release. Okay, so we talked about one of the forces acting on a projectile is gravity. If we have a greater height of release, the longer it's going to take for gravity to act upon our projectile. So for example, if I was to throw a softball from ground level, okay, so let's have a look. If I was to throw the softball here at ground level, this is ground level here, with my angle and speed correct, I'm going to throw it a distance, right? However, if I threw the same projectile from up on a hill or higher up, okay, so say my hill's here, if I was to throw the ball up here, it's going to travel a greater distance. Why? Because the gravity is taking longer to act on the projectile. So if I was to throw it here at ground level, drop about there. If I was to throw it at a higher height off the ground, it would have a longer, greater distance to travel before it lands on the ground. Alright. Okay, so just to recap the three main principles. So angle, the optimum is 45 degrees. Speed, okay, the more force I apply onto the particular object, the further the projectile or object that it will go. Okay, and the higher, so for the height of release, the higher my object, whatever I'm throwing, is off the ground, longer gravity will act upon it before it pulls it down onto the ground. Okay. Lucky last. Okay, so if we were to see here a few examples of height, angle and speed. So for example, the height here, so as you can see, the higher the person is off the ground, the long time for gravity to act upon it. Okay, the angle, so the greater the angle, the more height you're going to get onto the particular object. However, that isn't going to do us any justice if we are looking for distance. Okay, so for example, if we're wanting to throw the ball, basketball in a hoop from a 3-point line, we definitely would not use a sharp angle like this. We would throw it at a 45-degree angle, so I have longer time in the air to travel to the hoop. Alright, and lucky last, speed. So the more force we put behind a projectile, the further it will go, given the angle as well. Alright, so hope you guys found this valuable. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to ask in class. Thank you.